Things are going to be shaping up a bit down in the veg patch now. Decided to move the shed, and the shed I built about 3 years ago. It's a really nice heavy duty shed, and I made one of my very first videos with that shed with a bit of a time-lapse video. And what I'm going to be doing is, we've got a small area of land which is behind some conifer trees, so I'm actually going to make a bit of a raised decking behind those trees, between the trees and a garage, and that'll be a raised decking to give us a nice flat surface, and put the shed on that. It'll still just have a small ramp up to it, but it means that I don't have to start excavating and laying a concrete foundation. So I went out, just popped a Screwfix and bought a few things. I bought some masonry bolts. I hope it's going to be long enough. I'm going to put a 2x6 wall plate on the concrete wall to one side, and several of these should do the job. And these will just bolt into that wall and give us a really strong structure to build from. And then get some 4x4 posts concreted in. It's a 4-foot shed, so we'll do some posts down that side. And I bought some mini joist hangers, so we'll probably run just a couple of 4x2s across, because actually the shed has got a strong base anyway, so that'll sit on both the posts and the wall plate. So that's probably more than a one-man job, but I'm going to try my best and get that done. And the whole idea of that is to free up some space for a greenhouse, and I'm going to build that in the next few weeks, hopefully, or at least start the build. I've got loads of windows from the house, which are the secondary glazing windows. They're aluminium, toughened glass in most of them, and they're on sliders, and they're great windows that I can reuse for the greenhouse. We'll then do a polycarbonate roof on it, and use 4x2 treated carcassing as well. So I think it's probably going to work out the same as buying a cheap aluminium one, but it's going to look a lot nicer, be more substantial, and we can make it the size we want. And I'm going to take out some of the hedge as well and put some of it back into the hedge, which will become a shed area, but hopefully that will become more clear in future videos. So to give you an idea, this is the garage, which is situated to the side of our garden, and currently the shed that we need to move is this 8x4 shed here, but this is a nice south facing wall here, and this area is a real sun trap, so it makes sense to put the greenhouse here. I've got a hedge here, and what I want to do is actually move this shed into this space, and we'll do that using that raised decking sort of construction that I mentioned, and that'll free up this space here. We've also got a hedge which runs down here, which is about 6 foot deep. So the idea is I'm going to cut out a section of hedge, and that will mean that our greenhouse can probably be about 10 feet up to the hedge, and then it will extend into this area, which will be too shaded to grow anything in, but it'll be a great tool store, and that'll just be part of the same structure. So I haven't built a greenhouse before, but I'm hoping that from the research I've done, and from what I know we need, we'll be able to get something that's suitable. We'll also flatten out and probably either put a concrete foundation or at least some slabs down first, and we'll build ourselves a frame. So probably have a baseboard here. So I don't want glass all the way to the bottom, as I think it's always safer to have a kind of cladded bottom anyway. And the most southern side of the greenhouse will actually be shelving for starting potted plants and also the seedlings in trays on. So I'm going to have vertical cladding here, which I really like, and I've got some of left over. So that'll be tongue and groove, and then we'll have almost like a windowsill on there. So remember, some of this is hidden in the hedge. So the bit that's hidden in the hedge was probably about 4 or 5 foot. I'd probably just use feather edge down there. So that'll give us kind of a storeroom at the end. So the restructure, so we'll make the wall plate up here. So the roof structure, I'm thinking 2x4s should be fine. I'll put those along the top. So it's a single pitch because it's the lean-to. And then I'll make these spacings the same width as the polycarbonate roofing sheets that I'll be ordering. And they will overlap, both will overlap on the same rafter. And then you can get the kind of capping piece which clips them together, and that'll give us a really nice weather-tight seal at the top. So that's the plan for the roof. Now when it comes to this wall, I'll probably use 4x4s on the corners. So we'll have a nice solid structure, and again there'll be a 4x4 behind here. Then the carcassing itself, the stud work will be made up of 2x4. So it'll all be dictated by the windows that I mentioned, and I've got 3 of them. And they have their own frames. So what I'll be doing is I'll be fitting the frame, kind of face fitting it onto the 2x4. And once we've got that, then I'll use a capping piece, which will be probably a 2x1, which will sit over the top of that and clamp the frames in place. And actually the windows that will be, the first 2 windows are divided in 2 and they slide open and shut. That'll mean I won't have to have an opening vent or anything on the roof. So I can use solid polycarbonate sheeting on the top, and then if it gets too hot we can open these. And I've also got a full height sliding door version of this secondary glazing, which I'll use on the door at the side. And so I'll have a sliding door, and this is just one big glass panel which I've got. So the only real things to purchase will be the actual 2x4s and 2x6s and the 4x4s. And I think I estimated that, I think that came in at about 180, including the base and some plywood for the end. Most of this cladding I've got in scrap or offcuts, which I can use, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. And I've also got lots of floorboards from inside the house, which I'll be milling down into kind of a slatted bench system on the inside of this window where we'll be starting off all the seeds. And then on the other side where we've got the wall to grow against, there'll be a raised bed inside, and that's where we'll be growing tomatoes, cucumbers and chilies. So the whole thing will probably be about 14 feet long, maybe slightly less, and I think we're going to stick at about 6 foot deep. So that gives us a fairly good size. This will of course be south facing as well, so I'll probably put our cold frame that we built against this little wall here, and maybe something like a rhubarb patch there, something that's not going to move. And then of course we've got our raised beds elsewhere in the garden. So if anyone's got any top tips about having a greenhouse, things that they've learned in the past, or perhaps any things that you've regretted doing or not doing, it'd be really interesting to hear, because we're only going to build one once, and I want to get it ready, and I want to get it ready for this summer.